Brandon.
Okay, guys, by now everybody's heard about the decision today by the Supreme Court reversing New York's law that will not allow people to carry firearms per the Second Amendment. I've just gotten through reading through all 135 pages of it, and it's a lot of stuff in there, but let me tell you something. There's some good stuff in there. One of the things that I found the most probably interesting and powerful was Justice Alito's concurrence. He kind of went after Breyer. Breyer wrote the dissent that the other two liberal justices backed him on. And in his dissent, it was almost like Every Town for Gun Safety or one of these anti-gun groups had written it for him. It really made me realize that some of these justices have politicized their position completely. Because I do have confidence in some of these justices to try to do what's right per the Constitution. But Breyer simply stated a whole bunch of gibberish that anti-gun people repeat. Well, Alito was not having it. Alito smacked him down. I have to read you some of what he said. This, to me, was some of the most powerful stuff in support of the Second Amendment, but also he said the things that we want to say and that we do say, but we're sometimes in an echo chamber with our own people, and I don't think the right people hear it. I think the right people are going to hear this. Check this out. Talking about Breyer's dissent, he says, why, for example, does the dissent think it is relevant to recount the mass shootings that have occurred in recent years? Does the dissent think that laws like New York's prevent or deter such atrocities? Will a person bent on carrying out a mass shooting be stopped if he knows that it is illegal to carry a handgun outside the home? And how does the dissent account for the fact that one of the mass shootings near the top of its list took place in Buffalo? The New York law at issue in this case obviously did not stop that perpetrator. What is the relevance of statistics about the use of guns to commit suicide? Does the dissent think that a lot of people who possess guns in their homes will be stopped or deterred from shooting themselves if they cannot lawfully take them outside? The dissent cites statistics about the use of guns in domestic disputes, but it does not explain why these statistics are relevant to the question presented in this case. How many of the cases involving the use of a gun in a domestic dispute occur outside the home? And how many are prevented by laws like New York's? The dissent cites statistics on children and adolescents killed by guns. But what does this have to do with the question whether an adult who is licensed to possess a handgun may be prohibited from carrying it outside the home? As you can see, clearly, Breyer was taking everything else that he was angry about and just piling it into his dissent. And Alito was smart enough to realize that that's what he was doing. And really, what Alito is saying, the only thing that's changed here is the fact that people now can carry a gun outside the home. Breyer brought up all these things out there, and Alito was simply telling him, dude, the only thing that changed is that they can carry them outside the home. How is that going to change any of these statistics? And he was right about pointing out the Buffalo shooter. And he was, same thing that we've all been saying here over the last few weeks, that we're trying to rush through gun control because of something that happened that none of the laws that they're proposing would have stopped. And Alito is calling them out on it. This was pretty powerful to me. Our decision, as noted, does not expand the categories of people who may lawfully possess a gun, and federal law generally forbids the possession of a handgun by a person who is under the age of 18 and bars the sale of a handgun to anyone under the age of 21. So again, he's pointing out that there are laws in place. There are already laws in place, and nothing that we decided here today changes anything or any of your statistics. Now, this one is my favorite. This was a powerful statement, and this was kind of a middle finger. And while the dissent seemingly thinks that the ubiquity of guns and our country's high level of gun violence provide reasons for sustaining the New York law, the dissent appears not to understand that it is these very facts that cause law-abiding citizens to feel the need to carry a gun for self-defense. What he's saying right there is they're trying to say that New York is a special place. That because of how populous New York is, That's why they don't need to have handguns carried by anybody who wants to carry one. And what Alito is saying, you're making my argument for me. You're basically saying that because it is such a crime-ridden place and it is so populous, you're basically giving me the reason to justify telling these people they should have that right to carry a firearm. You're hurting your own argument here is what he's saying. There's a lot of people that are upset right now. A lot of people that are upset. And I can tell you right now, I'm not one of them. This was a long time coming. This was a law that has been in effect since 1905, I believe. Let me tell you something. You can best believe as many millions and millions of people who have lived within the confines and under these archaic rules in New York City, just the city alone, not the whole state. You can believe that out of all the people who have been prevented from carrying a firearm on their person, and even having them, period, just having them in their homes, but carrying them on their person for 100 years, how many lives do you think have been lost? How many rapes do you think have been taken place? How many assaults do you think have taken place? How many robberies? Because people could not defend themselves. How many times do you think that's happened? We know who has guns in an area where people aren't allowed to have guns. The criminals. There are people who have been murdered, raped, attacked, beaten because they could not defend themselves. I would love to know a way to quantify those numbers, because these people have been disenfranchised for over 100 years in that state. And in a city with that many millions of people, you can rest assured that crime rate, it's about to go down.
Let's go, Brandon.